When I came to Florence 15 years ago, I fell in love. You will say, you met your husband. No, I didn't even know him back then. I fell in love in the books, in the libraries, in the incredible heritage that this city possesses. Look at this. We are in the private library at Codex 49 Red. This is the biggest private library dedicated to heraldics that actually exists in Europe. And it's a spot in Florence that you can visit. The city has an incredibly rich the city possesses an incredibly rich number of historical libraries, book collections, archives that can be explored, can be studied, where people find stories that come to us from the past. Let us discover together the most interesting and important libraries of Florence. We can say that the very concept of a public library was born in Renaissance Florence. The groundbreaking project is the construction of San Marco Library, designed by Michelangelo between 1436 and 1446 as a part of San Marco's convent. The idea came from Cosimo the Elder, the Medici, the wealthy merchant that was building his political dominance over the government of Florence, and he wanted to represent himself as an illustrious, learned ruler that promotes culture and education. He sponsored the creation of illuminated codexes made by Zanobi Strozzi, who was a collaborator of Fra Angelico, and bought an important book collection from a humanist, Niccolo Niccoli. This library opened with 400 codexes displayed along 64 benches that were placed in this long rectangular room on the second floor in the dormitory of the Dominican friars. This library was accessible to the scholars, not only to the members of the Dominican order, but to anyone who was interested in the study of the classical antiquity and a philosophical and religious tradition. The library as it used to be, doesn't exist today, in terms that the library room today is empty. You can visit it while you visit San Marco's convent. But imagine that in the past, all along the room, there were wooden benches storing the 400 books that were chained, and the scholars, in order to read every single book, had to move from one bench to another, kind of discovering the collection of the library on their own. The Medici's patronage over libraries did not finish with San Marco Library. Cardinal Giulio de' Medici, who later became the Pope Clement VII, commissioned from his friend from childhood, Michelangelo Buonarroti, another important library where to store the collection of manuscripts held by his uncle, Lawrence the Magnificent. This is how the Laurentian Library was born inside of the complex of San Lorenzo Basilica. This project, that was concluded only in 1571, years after the departure of Michelangelo from the city and after the death of the Pope, becomes one of the most important breaking points in the library design in the history of library design. In fact, Michelangelo surprises everyone with an incredible project for the vestibule of the library that he fills in with an enormous staircase that becomes a monumental entrance to the reading room. The reading room used to be arranged in a similar way to the one at San Marco, with the rows of benches storing the books on the shelves. And still today, when you visit the Laurentian Library, at the beginning of each bench, you can actually find a list of the books that were housed in every single row. The Laurentian Library still functions today as a public Italian library that is dedicated to the scholars. It's not easy to actually get into the scholarly part. You have to have a special purpose related to your research, but the Laurentian Library is also open. Its historical environments, the vestibule and the historical reading room, they are accessible to the visitors from Monday to Friday, in the mornings between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. If you want, we can actually include the visit to the Laurentian Library to our tour in San Lorenzo neighborhood. The Medici's tradition for the foundation of important libraries was followed by the Riccardi family. Francesco Riccardi was a nobleman who actually acquired the Medici palace and wanted to reaffirm the newly acquired nobility of his dynasty through the foundation of another splendid library. He spent 115,000 scudi for the enlargement and the decoration of the Palazzo Medici Riccardi, putting his family actually in economical difficulties, but as a result of this investment, the Biblioteca Riccardiana of Florence was established. The works in the library were conducted by Luca Giordano, who decorated the beautiful vestibule, Galleria degli Specchi, decorated with a magnificent ceiling fresco showing the glorification of the Medici family. This part of the library is accessible to all the visitors who actually visit Palazzo Medici Riccardi, and together with the Magi Chapel is one of the most splendid and magnificent spaces that you can explore during your tour of the palace. The rest of the library is still part of the library itself. There is the reading room where Giordano painted a fresco with intellect comprehending truth, and where still today scholars can explore the rich collection of the Riccardian Library. The library has been enlarged at the end of the 1700s thanks to the activity of the librarian subdeacon Gabriello Riccardi, who created a neoclassical space dedicated to the goddess Minerva. And then, unfortunately, the Riccardis went through a bankruptcy in the early 1800s, and this incredibly rich book collection has been sold. The book dealers who acquired it sold it subsequently to the state, and so the Riccardian Library is today a public library where still again scholars conduct their research on the rich heritage preserved in this important collection. Because it's still a running library, it's not easy to actually visit the monumental spaces of this important building. There are some exclusive openings on occasions of national feasts or days of heritage, and I've never seen it. Being it a public library, it's not easy to actually visit the monumental spaces of Biblioteca Riccardiana. The library is open to the public only on special occasions and days of heritage, when they actually conduct external visitors through what are today the spaces of the library. Another important public library in Florence is Biblioteca Marucelliana, established thanks to the great donation of Francesco Marucelli, who left his rich private library with a special purpose as an education for poor kids. The library spaces designed by Alessandro Dori were inaugurated on September 18, 1752, and since then it is a public library that promotes the book culture in the city of Florence. Again, it's not easy to access the spaces of the library for just the regular visits. Special days, special occasions is when the library actually opens the historical rooms for everyone to explore it. For many scholars who work in Florence, one of the most important libraries remains the Biblioteca Nazionale Centrale di Firenze, the Central National Library in Florence, which gathers an enormous quantity of books, modern publications. Imagine that in Italy, by law, every new book published here has to end up in the collection of the National Library in Florence. The history of this library starts with the activity of Antonio Magliabecchi, a 17th century Florentine erudite writer who actually collects a very copiscus book collection that then becomes Biblioteca Riccardiana, first kept at the Uffizi and later in Via Pellicceria. The new headquarters of the National Library and Biblioteca Riccardiana will be designed in the 1930s in the spot between the Santa Croce convent and the Arno River. The library complex was designed by Cesare Bazzai and Vincenzo Mazzei, and it was inaugurated in 1935. It was a new home, modern home for the library that unfortunately proved to be located in a kind of a risky position as it was subjected to this dramatic flood that happened in Florence in November 1966. The proximity of the library to the river became disastrous for the book collections. Many important manuscripts and rare prints actually ended completely covered by the mud. The restorations work were carried by the internal restoration workshop, but still today, if you search through the library catalog, many books from the library collection are described as alluvionato, flooded. It will still take time for us to restore all the damaged library materials. Biblioteca Nazionale, just like all the other libraries, is a running institution open to students and scholars. But at the same time, if you are interested in exploring this modern building, the complex from the 1930s, you can organize guided visits for groups of more than 10 visitors. In the description of this video, I leave you an email where you can actually write with a request to access the library during the guided tour. Another beautiful library in Florence is today the public library called Biblioteca Delle Oblate. The story of this library actually starts as a story connected to the story of the oldest Florentine hospital, Santa Maria Nuova, established during the 1200s by Folco Portinari. It seems that Monna Tessa Capponi was responsible for the foundation of a religious order of the Suore Oblate, who actually worked as nurses in the hospital, and therefore their convent was built in a direct connection with the hospital buildings just in front of the ospedale. There the convent grew during the centuries, and many different buildings were united to create today's structure of the Oblate. During the centuries also various artists had their workshops in the conventual spaces, including Ghiberti, who seems to had cast there the great statue of Saint John the Baptist for the or San Michele. The Suore Oblate moved to a convent next to the modern hospital of Careggi in 1936, emptying this big space in the center of Florence. And this is when the municipality started organizing the various cultural institutions inside of the abandoned convent, including the foundation of the public library of the Oblate. Today, the Oblate is a space that you can freely explore and enjoy. At the very top of the library, there is a coffee place with a beautiful terrace overlooking Brunelleschi's dome, one of the best viewpoints on the dome. And on the ground floor, as soon as you enter to the library from the courtyard, on the left, you will find a kids section where your children can freely access and explore, read, have fun in the library. Today, the Oblate are a very important cultural institution where the locals come for book presentations, where kids enjoy their library time, have fun, where students can find a desk where to work and study in silence. The Harold Acton Library at the British Institute of Florence is possibly one of the libraries with the best views on the city of Florence. Today it's located in Palazzo Lanfredini in the Lungarno, and the library room overlooks the beautiful Corsini Palace on the other side of the Arno River. This library is related to the history, the story of the British Institute of Florence, a very important cultural institution established in 1917 by a group of British nobility and Florentine men who worked together at the end of the war against the anti-British propaganda, trying to promote an establishment of a cultural institution that would reinforce the dialogue between the two states. Since the beginning, the mission of the Institute is to teach English to Italians and teach Italian to the British community. And since the beginning, a rich book collection was actually part of the heritage of the Institute. The Institute moved locations few times. It started from Loggia Rucellai, then stayed at the Rucellai Palace until 1966. And then it actually moved to Palazzo Ranfredini thanks to a very generous donation by Lord Harold Acton. His father was one of the founders of the Institute, and he actually donated to the Institute his apartment in Palazzo Ranfredini, enabling the enlargement of the spaces where the cultural activities of the Institute could be promoted. Today, the British Institute of Florence is a cultural center. You get access to it through a membership, so it's basically a very good idea if you're planning a longer stay in the city. If you want to come here in the winter for a month or two, you want to benefit from the loans from the library, but also from the cultural events organized by the Institute, which are public lectures, their cultural program, and musical concerts and exhibitions. It's definitely a very, very vibrant cultural institution in Florence, where I myself, I'm one of the art history professors on art history courses promoted by the Brits, the BIF. The incredible richness and particularity of Florence stands in the fact that still today many book collections are actually possessed, managed, handled and preserved by the local families. It's a big responsibility of the important lineages of the Florentine nobility to actually give life to these book collections. And so we were thrilled to hear about this new project promoted by Stefano Guelfi-Camaiani and his wife Ilaria Pistolesi, who opened their private library, which is the largest private library dedicated to heraldic in Europe to everyone. And this is how Codex 49 Red, Codex 49 Rosso was born. Opened under the pandemic, started being active obviously afterwards, somewhere around 2022, when this library becomes accessible to the visitors. They became a cultural center, organizing musical concerts and also some gastronomic events, making this place alive. Stefano Guelfi-Camaiani is a scholar. He daily looks for stories that are hidden inside of the books, inside of his library. And many of these stories are actually related to the local gastronomical tradition of Tuscany. In Italy, cuisine is not only about food, it's about the heritage, it's about the history. And so here again you can touch this particularity of Tuscany during also the wine tastings and culinary events that put together art, history and food. In the description of this video you will find a link to the website of Codex 49 Rosso, where you will find a calendar of all their events, musical concerts, wine tastings and culinary events that are scheduled. Musical concerts, culinary events and wine tastings that are currently scheduled. And so this is Florence. The book collections here are really part of the city. If you want to explore the history of the Florentine libraries, contact us so we can organize your custom itinerary focused on book history.